And we're back with the Shacknews Awards 2023. And this category that we're going to be giving an award for is called the Shackbattle Game of the Year. What's a Shackbattle, you may ask? Well, we've had a community that's been alive for 28 years this year. And at the core of it, Shacknews was really always a place to find other people to play games with online. It started with Quake, where even before the website, there was a Shacknews or Quake Holio IRC channel, which was probably the best place to get info on, Quake servers or games going on, or maybe even online tournaments. Uh, that kind of expanded beyond Quake uh, naturally to other FPS games in the late 90s. So we saw Duke Nukem 3D Shack battles, or we saw Unreal Tournament Shack battles. Valve stopped by to play some Team Fortress 2 against Shacknews at one point, where we put our five best players against their five best players, and I believe we won. Uh, you have to check the tape on that. But yeah, at the core of Shacknews and our community has been video games and finding ways to come together to play them. We started giving this award out in 2020 when it became really apparent just how important online games with friends could be in an isolating period like the pandemic. And we've just kind of continued to give this award since then because it is something pretty special about how our community was created and how it continues in 2023. So we have four games that have been nominated for this award this year. Street Fighter 6, which is a new release, and it's important to note that you don't have to uh, be released this year to be eligible for this category. You can be an ongoing game. The next up would be our back-to-back. Uh, is it back-to-back winner or back-to-back-to-back winner
I
of the
think it
Shack
might be our
Battle
back to
game?
back to back winner going back to 2020.
It's hard to four-peat, isn't it? And they're trying this year. Wreckfest by Bugbear. It's a fantastic game if you haven't tried it. It's a racing game, but it's also like a demolition derby, which kind of lends
We
itself.
played it on staff a couple times, right, Austin?
That's right. It was part of the Shacknews stimulus games. It's been part of the staff tournaments in the past. I've definitely had to take on all of Chatty at one point in a 1v25 match that did not go as well as I had hoped. But then, F-Zero 99 came out and this game doesn't exist anymore, so whatever. Uh, Battlefield 2042 is another game that there have been, I wouldn't say weekly, but at least bi weekly Shack battles this year. The game is pretty improved from its launch condition. I don't know, Bill, if you could chime in a little on that, but it seems like Battlefield 2042 is in a better state now than it was at launch, even if it is lacking some things still.
Yeah, it's absolutely in a better state than it was, which I don't think is really a surprise to anybody. It seems to be kind of the way that the Battlefield just improves over the years, whichever release it is. But they're constantly doing new seasons, new updates, adding new maps and new modes and whatnot. So, um, been thinking about going back to Battlefield 2042 myself, to be honest.
Is it called the Portal or whatever? Like the thing that you can play like any old legacy modes in or legacy levels?
Yeah,
That's
that definitely did come out. Yeah.
I think that's been pretty huge for the Shack because Battlefield it's not just Battlefield games, but the Bad Company games. Uh there's a long history of Shack battles in that franchise. And I think one of the things that hurt that franchise on the Shack is the lack of dedicated servers. That's something that Wreckfest does have, that you can just spin up your own server, and that's pretty huge. So it's despite some of those issues that are still there, people are playing Battlefield 2042 on the Shack this year.
I do.
And the
I will
last,
say I appreciated that last map they added, the vehicle free map, where it's just I don't have to worry about hovercrafts running up on me. Like
yeah,
it's so huge for me.
I'm just so categorically terrible at vehicles in the franchise, but I remember flying around in a helicopter with Bill in Battlefield 4, and I had like a pistol, and I was just shooting out the window with it. It was super effective.
You
The
get in a
last game,
helicopter, you're gonna win.
I think we did win. The last game that's being nominated, we only have four in this category, is Team Fortress 2. I don't think I need to explain how awesome of a game this is or why it's a great multiplayer game or why it's had this
Classic.
kind of staying power. But it is a game that Shackers, it's not as often as it used to be, but there was a time where we could just say, hey, anyone want to play TF2 on Sunday? And like 50 people would show up. So yeah, that it's still a game that I think the Shack will play from time to time, but I don't think it's going to win this year, but it deserves the nomination because it's a wonderful game and they still support it. And yeah, I still enjoy playing it. Like, it's one of those games where you come back to it for like Scream Fortress or one of those special events during the year, and it always puts a smile on my face. It's still fun. So those are our nominees. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna, on behalf of Team Fortress 2, I think the Team Fortress 2 is definitely gonna be like the last Shackbattle game standing. Like, it might not win this year, but if I had to predict one game that would be nominated 10 years from now, it'd be TF2, I think. Over anything
Or like
else.
the year is 2080. TF2 is still being played. Yeah,
I also wanted to chime in with a fun stat. Overwatch, which tried very hard to emulate TF2. Overwatch 2 is currently sitting at 18,000 players on Steam. Team Fortress 2, 66,000.
Yeah, that's the staying power
more
of
than
that
triple.
game. That's the staying power of that game, but it also speaks to why you don't overwrite a game file. You don't update an EXE into can you imagine if they deleted Halo 1 when they shipped Halo 2? Can you imagine doing that? Because that's what they did with Overwatch.
Ridiculous.
Like, it's absurd. What Overwatch 2 did, absurd. Stupid. And, like, as someone who liked the first Overwatch a little bit, like, over time it grew on me, but, like, they've made a lot of missteps with that franchise. And it's just really unfortunate to see, because think about Overwatch 5 years ago to now. Like, it was one of the hottest esports on earth. It was fun to play with friends. And I know that they tried to balance it, and I know that's why they went from 6 players to 5. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. Team Fortress 2, when you look at it in comparison to Overwatch 2, boy, that's definitely it's a case study in how companies handle their IP differently. But yeah,
at least going to 5 players helped save that esports scene. Oh wait, no, it didn't.
Oh right, yeah.
Now.
Can you imagine paying $50 million for an Overwatch League team?
That's just too
That's
much
what
money.
happened.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know. It's
Like,
just it's wild to think.
And people think NFTs are dumb. Overwatch League teams, that's like a different level of degenerate. No, they both are. What I'm saying is, it's a different level of degenerate who's just going to piss away $50 million on an Overwatch team.
Off the top of my head, I can only think of Houston that has tried to pivot to an entertainment company, because really, what else can you do with an Overwatch League team at this point now that there's no league?
Yeah, it's a mess.
I don't know. Maybe sell cookies?
I get a Girl Scout squad together.
I don't know.
I brought Girl Scout cookies to that press room that first time.
Like Overwatch League bake sale. I don't know. Like, maybe a car wash. There's something they could do to turn it around. But we're getting off topic here. I'm actually gonna have to hit my gavel here because we're getting off topics. Let's get back on topic here. This is the Shackbattle Game of the Year award we're talking about, not Blizzard Misstep Award of the Year. So yeah, let's talk about them. Street Fighter 6. Who wants to talk about how great Street Fighter 6 multiplayer is?
I mean, well, me and TJ can both tag team, I think.
Go for it.
I'll let TJ start the honors.
Man, nobody knows how to make an online lobby like Capcom right now. Like, what an impressive setup with the Battle Hub, the private matches, private rooms, public rooms. You can take your character that you made in the World Tour mode and take it into the Battle Hub and do all sorts of matches with other people. You can do like ranked matches. You can do casual matches. You can practice online with other players. Man, they just give you all the options that you would want to have if you were like a community guy that wanted to get together with other people and do stuff. It's amazing how hard they pivoted from Street Fighter V and made sure that their online, the netcode, the systems, and the features were just so fleshed out for this one.
Yeah,
I
and
also
I
want to
think
bring up that the game had actual crossplay that functions.
I was gonna say that
made sure that-
crossplay. I think crossplay is huge, Denny, for the importance of like an online community being alive, right? And on the Shack, there's people who have PS5s or Xboxes, or a lot of people play on PC, right, with the Shack Fighter Guild.
Mhm.
But like being able to have everyone come together, other than Switch players, but everyone else can come together and play Street Fighter it's a big deal for this year's iteration. And like you said, night and day from how bad Street Fighter V was online.
They made it so easy, and that's why we're able to have like these meetups for Street Fighter 6 every week on Chatty. Like you can go into Chatty, you can always find a Street Fighter 6 thread and people jumping in.
And they're not just, it's a once a week tournament that our underscore PicMip5 is organizing, but there's also the discussion around Street Fighter 6 all the time over on that forum. So I think that game has really captured the Chatty community's attention this year more than some of these other ones that we've nominated.
We know there's still more additional content coming too, so some of community phase will be coming out next year. I'm sure when Akuma drops, there'll be some big things coming.
And I'm not sure if Street Fighter V had this, but I barely played it, and I definitely wasn't watching or spectating. But being able to spectate two of your friends playing and seeing their movesets in real time, it's been really that game. It really feels like it's more accessible to new players than a lot of fighting games are, because like you can be a little more passive and just kind of watch other people play it first. And I think that's just part of that.
It's like going to an arcade, right? Like you
exactly
you go to an arcade, watch people play, and kind of learn the ropes vicariously, sort of thing.
And that's what's great about the Battle Hub.
In the Battle Hub, like you see a bunch of people gathered around like an arcade. You just jump in and then you go to spectator mode. It's really cool.
It's a really really cool virtual environment that they've kind of. I like that it's just an extension of what feels like a real place and not a bunch of menus.
Yeah,
it's what I thought the metaverse would be.
Well, the metaverse is just an arcade where you can play Street Fighter with friends. I mean, that sounds better than a lot of the other.
I'm in.
There are only a handful of features I want out of like Street Fighter 6's online multiplayer features that aren't there right now. I think it's when you jump in to spectate a match right now, it fast forwards from the beginning to the match up to where it is. And that's kind of weird and jarring.
Yeah.
Because the audio is on when it happens. So you get like just a hurricane of punches and kicks and special effects all at once. And it has almost blown my ears out when I had a headset on one time. But the other thing I'd like to see is them add something like, you got this big old screen in the Battle Hub. I want them to put Twitch integration on that and stream the Street Fighter Evo finals next year in the game. That would be dope.
That'd be kind of like taking a page out of Dota 2's playbook where you could like spectate from within the game. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, I love that idea. And yeah, it's just another example of how they're bringing players together in that game in a way that, it's hard not to talk about Street Fighter 5 when you talk about Street Fighter 6. Like, it's drastically different than the online player experience was in Street Fighter 5. And that's just...
I really appreciate the amount of time they put into the accessibility in general. I've had a lot of friends who've been able to actually get in and play that weren't able to play 5 because they didn't have those features available just off rip. So, big things.
And they made Blanca good. So, A-okay by me. Just real quick, let's talk about these other games. I kind of mentioned Wreckfest when we were going over the nominations. Wreckfest, winner of the Shackbattle Game of the Year for 3 straight years in a row. Awesome online, has dedicated servers. They've supported it with DLC. There's mod support for the game. The game really isn't getting a whole lot of updates lately, but just the community itself is keeping it going. I think Bugbear got acquired. So they're working on something right now. But yeah,
they're working on the sequel, are they not?
I think they're working on Wreckfest 2 or some kind of... I don't know if that's what it's called, but they are working on something. But yeah, I think people who've been watching the Shacknews Awards should know what Wreckfest is if you're a Shacker and you're on the chatty every week. Wednesdays, you usually see Tom W. post about, hey, we're playing Wreckfest, 9 p.m. head over and hook up with them. If you're interested in racing games that aren't F-Zero 99, Wreckfest Wednesdays are still a thing on Shack News Chatty. We mentioned Battlefield 2042 already. That's kind of been the Thursday Shack Battle this year. It has been, I think, pretty consistently happening on every week. So I think it is similar to what we're seeing with Street Fighter 6 and obviously Wreckfest. The last nominee, Team Fortress 2, I think this is probably the least amount of TF2 battles that we've seen on the Shack in a few years at least. So it's a down year for that franchise, but it's not a down year for the game or anything. It's just, I think there's so many games to play right now that organizing an online battle for a game that's really old is just not as attractive as, I don't know, playing Tears of the Kingdom or Spider-Man or Starfield or one of the other thousands of awesome games that came out this year, right? But yeah, those are the 4 nominees. I think we've hit all of them enough. Is everyone ready to vote?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Who wants to start? We'll start with Denny.
Well, my vote goes to Street Fighter 6.
Okay.
Capcom, knocking it out.
David?
Street Fighter 6.
Donovan?
Also gonna go with Street Fighter 6.
Street Fighter 6. Greg?
Street Fighter 6.
TJ?
Street Fighter sweep.
Ozzy?
Street Fighter 6.
Bill?
No sweep. I want to give some love to 2042 just for the folks that are playing it on Thursday. I know it's a foregone conclusion, but they deserve a little love. No sweep.
Okay. Sam?
Yeah, Street Fighter 6.
Okay. Steve?
Street Fighter 6.
And I'm also voting for Street Fighter 6. So that's 9-1. 9-1. Street
So
Fighter
you're
6.
saying there's a chance.
Look, all these games deserve praise, especially, the
Absolutely.
turnaround that's going on at Battlefield 2042 is hard to ignore. Like, it is in better condition than it was. Because Shackers would not be playing that game if it wasn't. And they are. They are showing up every week. That game does support large party sizes, so it deserves to be mentioned. But man, Street Fighter 6, had a hell of a year in 2023. And I have a feeling that this isn't the end of the ride for that game. And they'll probably be in the mix for next year's Shack Battle Game of the Year. But congratulations to Capcom and the Street Fighter 6 dev team. You are the Shack Battle Game of the Year 2023 at the Shacknews Awards.
Street Fighter 6.